This is Maggie Grizel. She's a senior at Furman University. She says she's leaning in your favor, but she also
good. Let's finish it tonight.
She likes Dr. Carson as well.
Hi, Senator.
I like
Rubio.
Dr. Carson as well.
Welcome to Greenville. I'm sure you're well aware that college and student debt loans are on the rise currently. As someone who's planning to attend dental school this upcoming fall, my only in-state option is about $100,000 a year, setting me up for about $500,000 of debt before I have the chance to make a dime of it back. Do you currently think that there's a problem with the cost of education?
Yes.
And if so, what's your plan to make it more affordable? Specifically, how do you deal with cutting costs for students but still maintaining a high quality of education?
That's a great question. In fact, I believe I'm the only Republican candidate that consistently talks about student loan debt. And one of the reasons why is because 3 years ago I still owed over $100,000 in student loan debt, which I was only able to pay off because I wrote a book. It's called An American Son, now available on paperback. That joke, people always laugh. I love that joke. It's not a joke. It is available on paperback. So I've actually worked, and I have a bipartisan agenda on this issue, and it comprises 4 main things. The first is alternative accrediting. Okay? Today, there are only 6 accrediting boards in the country. You can only award what is recognized as a 4-year degree if you are accredited by one of these 6 institutions. It's basically a monopoly. Because today, in the 21st century, we have the ability to learn multiple ways. You don't just have to sit in a classroom. There are so many different ways now to acquire information. And so what I've pushed for is an alternative accrediting model that allows there to be accredited learning outside of the traditional school setting. For example, give people credit for what they've learned through life experience, work experience, military experience. If you have mastered a subject, you should not be forced to sit in a classroom and pay to take a course on something you already know, if you prove you've already mastered it. This alternative accrediting model would allow us to do that. And there's already options out there, Coursera, Udacity, but they're not accredited. So you can't use financial aid, and the private sector doesn't recognize it. I think we need to do that. That is especially important for non-traditional students. For example, let's say there's a single mother. She's a receptionist. She makes $11 an hour. The only way she's ever going to get a raise is to go back to school and become a dental hygienist or a paralegal. But she can't go back to school because she has to work full-time during the day and raise her kids at night. If there was an alternative accrediting model that allowed her to acquire learning on nights, on weekends, through life experience, work experience, that gave her credit for what she learned in her years on the job, it would at least shorten that time, if not allow her to complete that degree course. So the first is alternative accrediting that would allow you to get the maximum number of credits without having to pay for it in a traditional institution. The second is an alternative to student loans called the Student Investment Plan. And this would allow you to go to a private investment group who would invest in you the way an investment group invests in a startup business. In essence, they would believe in you so much and in your success that they would pay for your college. If you become financially successful, they're going to make their investment back with a profit. If you do not, they're going to lose their money and make a bad investment. But all the risk is on them. The third is to make income-based repayment the automatic method of repaying a loan. I actually have that law right now that I'm working on with Mark Warner, a Democrat from Virginia. And why that is important is because I would rather collect $20 a month from a student than nothing. Because if you're collecting $20, at least you're collecting $20 a month and they're not defaulting on the debt. Because if you default, it ruins your credit. Now you can't buy a house. Now you can't, it really hurts you. And the fourth is called Right to Know Before You Go, which I'm working on with Ron Wyden, a Democrat from Oregon. And what that law says is that before you take out a loan, schools have to tell you how much people make when they graduate from that school with a degree that you're seeking. Why is that important? Number one, it will probably teach you that the market for Roman philosophers has tightened significantly. So you may not want to borrow $50,000 to be a Roman philosopher unless you're going to teach it or go on to grad school. But the other is it's going to allow you to compare schools. It's going to allow you to look at 2 different schools and say, I want to major in history. A history major from this school makes $50 grand a year, and it only costs $20,000. A history major from this school makes $50,000 a year, but it costs $100,000. Now you have something to make a decision on other than the U.S. News and World Report college ranking. This is the kinds of things that I'm working on because to me this is deeply personal. When I graduated, when I got married, my first years, my largest payment after the rent was our student loan debt. It was over $1,000 a month. So I always joke that I never met her, but I paid Sally Mae a lot of money over the years. And I want to avoid more because today higher education is a necessity. It is no longer a luxury. There are no good paying jobs without some skill and or educational achievement in the 21st century. So I do think it's a big issue and I want us to work on it.
Thank you very much for the question.